Hello guys, Dr. Perfumer there, and today, as usual, I will be making a new video about the new units that were announced on CN and discuss about their viability in IS. So, obviously, the meta has changed a lot. We are now in the IS6 era, so I will be making an analysis based on what we currently have in IS6. I know they have the 4th and maybe even 5th ending on CN right now, so it might not be that relevant, but I'm still gonna talk about it. So for once, I am taking the info directly on my Discord that were posted by Amelie here, and I know a lot of people are reproaching me to wait for the numbers, but I'm gonna show you that this time this is actually very relevant, and this is why I always wait for the numbers. So first of all, we have Perfumer the Breedable, so this is Perfumer Alter, and she's now an Abjurer, which is one of the worst archetype in the game, but I feel like this one is actually pretty decent. So the trait is obviously deals arts damage when skills active attack instead restore the HP. Talent 1, let's refer to the module, so she gains 150 HP, 50 attack, and trait heal target increase to 2 on scale, and she grants 22% sanctuary to allied units in attack range with HP percentage equal or lower than this unit. 22% for a 5-star is actually quite a lot of sanctuary, I would say. Skill 1 has 9 initial SP and auto activation. She heals once equal to 500% of attack, which is around 3000 HP, I would say, and she gives plus 25% defense to the target for 10 seconds, and this can't be stacked. So this is alright-ish, this is a decent heal. 3000 HP is actually quite a lot, but it's not in AoE, it's only in single targets. The defense increase is actually not that relevant if you know how Shining works usually. I don't think it will make much difference, but it's okay because I think the best skill is the S2 by far. So S2 is 0 initial SP, 0 SP cost, because this is a passive that activates when she's deployed and lasts 30 seconds. So on deployments, she gains plus 50 attack speed, which is very funny because it's the opposite of Perfumer S2 where she loses attack speed. The talent sanctuary effect is double, so 44%, and each heal gives plus 30% attack to the target for 3 seconds. So with the module, she's able to increase the attack of 2 operators in range, and it causes them to lose 1% HP every second, which means she's able to continuously buff the attack of the characters for the whole duration of the skill. The only issue is that you need to be able to heal at least once, so you can only use this skill on a target that has already lost HP, but if you can heal at least once, then plus 30% attack for 30 seconds is actually pretty decent. I kept on thinking the other day that what we currently want in the meta for healers are actually healers that you deploy, they do something, and then you redeploy them. And that's exactly what Perfumer is. This is the first of a kind. Well, if we exclude things like, for example, Nightingale that have like 120 seconds cooldown on their skills, and that you actually want to redeploy because it's faster this way, right? But this is the first time we get a literal passive skill activation. While 30% attack is alright, the question we have to ask in IS is this better than, for example, Shamare? Is this better than, for example, Quercus? Since Shamare can't heal, we automatically have to compare her to Quercus, so Quercus also heals, but also restores SP, while Perfumer increases attack. So do you want more SP or do you want increased attack? It probably depends. There are a lot of cases where you actually have your skill that is already ready on your DPS, and you actually keep the skill for a specific moment, so you don't actually need SP recovery, and you instead want attack buffed. The thing is, it says the buff is unstackable, so I don't think it can be stacked with, for example, Warfarin, which is a bit of a shame, right? Still, I think this is gonna be tried for sure. Like, this unit is gonna be tried, and that's actually pretty rare for a 5-star. They keep on releasing interesting 5-stars lately, and I really like this one. I'm not sure if she's gonna be meta or not, but she's certainly gonna be tried. People are gonna compare her to Quercus and decide whether this one or this one is gonna be more useful. She certainly has potential for now. The second unit is the Welfare unit, which is Varkaris. He's a 5-star Centurion, so trait is obviously attacks multiple enemies equal to block count. Talent 1 is one of the worst talent 1 I've ever seen, which is when deployed, all minus operators deal 110% damage to enemies with less percentage HP than them, which is unbelievably bad because first of all, there's not a lot of minus operators. Second of all, it's only like a 12% increased damage, which is not that much. And third of all, it's conditional, so I know it's a Welfare unit, but come on. Skill 1 is interesting. It doesn't increase the physical damage that much, but it hits 3 times, which can be relevant in some situation, but in a lot of cases, you actually want more physical damage to bypass defense, right? But its offensive recovery might be a consideration with Shadow, this kind of stuff. The thing with Shadow is that there are a lot of 5-star guards that already have an offensive recovery skill, right? Like they are Aya Scrape, Lapland, Bybeak. It's pretty hard to have a niche in this. So skill 2 is 30 initial SP, 45 SP cost, 30 seconds duration, auto recovery, manual activation. When skill is activated, attacks deal 200% physical damage and recover 8% HP. HP exceeding max HP would be converted into barrier. Barrier can be stacked up to 100% max HP and gradually decays after the skill ends. So this is a bit like hummus, but on a 5-star. 8% HP on each attack is actually quite a lot of HP, but the thing is, you automatically want to compare him with Spectre. Now the question is, do you want him or do you want Spectre? Well, the main difference is that Spectre only has 5 seconds cooldown between the initial SP and the SP recovery, and this guy has 15 seconds, so that's actually quite a lot of difference. Of course, he doesn't self-stun at the end of the skill, unlike Spectre, but at the same time, not being able to be defeated is actually probably more relevant than gaining barrier, I would say. Yeah, this is an interesting unit, but I would say in most cases, Spectre is probably better than this. I didn't even mention the module, so the trait is takes 20% less damage when HP over 50%, and the minus operators deal 118% damage. We would have to see in the future if they release more minus operators, but for now it is very, very bad. I think there are currently 5 minus operators in the game, and this event is gonna release 3, so that's only 8, which is really not that good. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna be much of a consideration. I think if you want a tanky Centurion that also deals quite a lot of damage, Spectre is usually better than this, and Spectre also benefits from other units like Gladia. I guess it's good for a new player, right? It's a good unit for a new player for sure. You basically get a weaker version of Spectre, I would say, but at the same time, a weaker version of Spectre is actually pretty good. So good for a new player, probably useless for an advanced player, particularly in IS, I would say. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Finally, we have Titty. First of all, funny name. Second of all, she's an incantation medic, so the same archetype as Reed Alter, but this one is very much focused on sleep. So this is probably the first support sleep is getting since, I don't know, like 5 years. I know we got Eblana, but Eblana's sleep skill is hers 2, and hers 2 is basically the only skill you don't want to use. So trait is obviously attacks deal arts damage and heal the HP, blah blah blah. You know what an incantation medic is. Talent 1, frozen time. We're gonna read the module because this is what's relevant. Plus 150 HP, plus 53 attack. Trait, heal amount increases to 60% of damage dealt. Talent increases damage dealt to stationary enemies to 31% and damage taken by sleeping enemies up to 42% attack. Okay. Skill 1, gradual erosion, 18 initial SP, 40 SP cost, 17 seconds duration. Auto recovery, manual activation, plus 100% attack. Attacks have 50% chance to put the target to sleep for 3 seconds. I really hate this skill. I hate skills that have like RNG in them, and 50% sleep is like the definition of RNG. It's either you put the target to sleep or you don't. So let's pass on this skill because I think fortunately that it's very useless compared to the other 2 skills. Skill 2, sealed protection, 15 initial SP, 20 SP cost, 15 seconds duration. Auto recovery, manual activation, stops attacking enemies, plus 180% attack. When skill is activated, Titty puts herself and an ally operator with the lowest HP percentage with an attack range to sleep. This is unbelievably funny. Now, we need an information that isn't displayed there. Can the sleeping operators be attacked? I am not sure about this because sleeping enemies can't be attacked unless specifically said so. So can sleeping operators be attacked? I'm not sure. Within the skill duration, Titty and the operator will continually put nearby enemies to sleep, increase talent 1 effect by 3.3 times, which is then 126% attack. Skill can be manually deactivated at any time. So she increases her attack to 180% and she deals continually 120% attack to enemies that come in range. This is very good for a skill that has a 20 SP cooldown. This seems unbelievably good. For enemies that don't have sleep immunity, this seems very good. I can think of a lot of stages where this could be unbelievably broken. Think about all of these IS-4 stages where there are a lot of enemies coming at you at Mach 5 speed and you put them all to sleep and they die over time. This could also be very good in the Remnant of Consciousness in IS-6 because this skill can be used almost like a heli drop skill. So I really want to know if Titty can be attacked during the duration of the skill, because if she can't, then you basically get a lane holder for the whole duration of the skill, which is absolutely insane. Like the skill 2 absolutely seems broken as fuck. Of course, it's completely useless against bosses that are immune to sleep, and that's not even true because maybe you just want to deal with the other enemies in range. So yeah, I think the skill 2 is actually insane. Also, any skill that says her her and an ally operator is obviously insane with fast redeploy operators like Gravel, for example. So yeah, the skill 2 already seems absolutely insane. Let's read the skill 3. Days of Eld, 28 initial SP, 37 SP, 25 seconds duration, auto recovery, manual activation, plus 180% attack 2 targets simultaneously. So far this seems very similar to Red Altar 3. When attacking awake enemies, put them to sleep for 5 seconds. Within the skill duration, enemies receive arts damage upon waking up. Damage scales with the sleep duration up to 460% attack, and puts another nearby enemies to sleep for 5 seconds. When other ally operators within attack range receive lethal damage, they fall asleep until HP completely recovers or the skill ends. So another one of these operators that prevents other operators to die, pretty much like Hoshiguma the Breacher. So the skill 3 is basically a pure power creep of Silence Altar, right? So while she seems to be doing quite a lot of damage, this is a skill used mainly for the HP recovery and prevent lethal damage. I'm not sure if this has like a cooldown or a limit. Is this only for one operator? Is this for every operator during the whole duration of the skill? I'm not sure. It doesn't say so I assume it doesn't have any limit. So I'm not sure how long it takes for an operator that has been defeated to fall asleep and recover HP. Is it based on the healing that Titty provides? Is it based on a specific duration? We're not sure about this. If it's based on a specific duration, it's not that good because, well, your operator is gonna fall asleep, so he's gonna, for example, lose the block and the enemy is able to go through. But if it's based on Titty's healing, and if she heals enough, then basically you also have like another lane holder skill that lasts 25 seconds. So also seems pretty good. Still, I think the best skill is still actually the S2 there. If this skill works as I think it does, this seems absolutely insane for any stage that isn't a boss stage. You can almost think of her as a Vanguard in this case, because you deploy her, you activate the skill, nobody can pass through her for 15 seconds, so you gain 50 SP during the duration of the skill, and then you can deploy other operators. These operators are gonna be healed, because, well, Titty is a healer. This seems very good. I can think of a lot of stages where this could be extremely powerful. So here we have a showcase of Titty. So this is the S1, where she randomly puts enemies to sleep. Again, not a really interesting skill in my opinion. This is the S2. So as you can see, Estelle and Titty are now sleeping and enemies in their range are slowly dying. Again, it doesn't say here whether this unit can now be attacked or not. I'm not sure. I think she can be attacked. I think Estelle and Titty couldn't be attacked during the duration of the skill, but we're gonna have to determine later. If they can be attacked, this is absolutely insane. And so this is a 3, so she attacks 2 targets at the same time. They get put to sleep and they take quite a bunch of damage when they wake up. Again, this seems pretty decent, but this is only for survivability. If you want... I feel like the S2 is actually much better simply because it literally freezes a lane for 15 seconds. So what do I think about Titty? I think Titty is gonna be gross. Simply because I think on most maps, you're gonna want to use S2 more than S3. So that means that E1 is gonna be enough for her. Again, it's what I said. You can simply deploy Titty, activate S2, and she can freeze a lane for the whole duration of the skill, which gives you enough time to deploy your other operators afterwards. I think it's particularly true in IS6 because with overcoming your weakness, you're starting with a guard, supporter, and medic. So if you're below difficulty 15 and you get 1 hope at the beginning, you can now start with like a 4-star guard, Titty, and Radiant at the same time. So you will pick a guard that doesn't cost that much DP, you can deploy Titty, and you can simply put the guard to sleep, and in the meantime you deploy your Radiant, you deploy your summons, and so on. So yeah, I absolutely think Titty is gonna be played for sure. This seems to be an extremely powerful skill, and also since she's an incantation medic, she actually doesn't cost a lot to deploy. So yeah, she's more or less a pseudo Vanguard in my opinion, and I would wager that this is how she's actually gonna be played. Deploy her, put the whole lane to sleep, freeze the whole lane, and then deploy your other operators. Or, if you're in the late game, you can transition to S3 if you need more survivability, or to S2 as a quote-unquote panic button if you need it to freeze a lane. So yeah, very versatile unit, very flexible unit. I really like her, and I can't wait to try her. So with this update, we also got a bunch of modules. So we got the module of Entelekia, and that's why I wanted to wait for the numbers. I always want to wait for the numbers now. Why? Because the damage over time goes from 200 to now 500 arts damage, which is, well, multiplied by 2.5, what the hell. She also now recovers percentage HP when the effect is active. The HP steal is now much more than before. She gets more HP, more attack speed, and even more attack speed when there are at least 2 enemies in her attack range. So I think this is an extremely potent module because it gives her literally everything. It gives her more HP, it gives her more attack, it gives her more attack speed, it gives her more damage over time. Also, the duration got increased to 6 seconds, and it gives her even more healing. So I think Entelechia is now even better than before. I have used Entelechia a lot in IS6, and she seems to be doing quite well because she's actually an interesting option to deal with all the Ling enemies, right? And I think now she's actually even better in the late game because that's usually where Entelechia falls, right? In the late game in IS, because the healing is not enough, because the damage she deals is not enough. And now it's actually looking quite better. So yeah, can't wait to try this module. This seems to be a very, very good module. We have Hodor's second module. I have no idea what this does. Straight increased damage to blocked enemies to 110%. Talent 130% attack when attacking enemies. If enemies are stunned or bound, then attack further increases to 160%. Stuns enemy for 2.5 seconds when dealing damage to blocked enemies for the first time. Hodor already had that module that increased his sanctuary effect. So feel free to tell me in the comments if you think this second module is better than his first one. I have frankly no idea. I think the Entelechia second module is actually much better than the first one, but for Hodor, I have actually no idea. Rosa is getting a second module. Increases her attack, defense, increased damage to enemies further away up to 12%. Talent, all USSGG members gain plus 14% in attack. USSGG operators gain plus 15% attack whenever USSGG operators is in skill duration up to 45%. So this is interesting. It makes use of Leto's S2, right? Is this gonna be very good? Probably not, because the thing is, there's not a lot of actually useful USSG members in IS. Like, Gummy is good, for sure, but do you want Rosa in IS? Probably not. There are much better snipers right now. Do you want, for example, Zima in IS? There are much better Vanguards. Do you want Estina in IS? There are much better supporters. Do you want Leto in IS? There are much better guards. It's a decent module, I would say. It gives some synergy to a faction that actually had like no synergy at all. So it's interesting, but I feel it is definitely not enough to make Rosa back to the meta. But it's interesting that they are releasing more modules like that. I really like it. And Viviana gains HP, attack, and defense. Trade blocked enemies take 10% arts fragility. And when attacking an elite or leader enemy, there's a 27% chance to gain a shield that only blocks melee attacks max 2 stacks. So the number of stacks get increased to 2, and the chance to proc it is increased to 27%. So now, is it better than the Delta module she has? I am actually not sure. The Delta module has already been pretty fringe, right? Because there are much better burn applicators, most notably you. So she's always been you, but worse. Now, is this module that has now 1 more stacks gonna be more useful? Maybe, actually, because 27% S3 multiplies this by 2.5%, so she now has quite a lot of chance to get a lot of shields, and she's probably gonna be pretty much invincible when she's blocking an elite or leader enemy, unless the elite or leader enemy has a very, very high attack speed, or hits multiple times at the same time. So for example, Kilon. I think she's probably gonna be much better now with this module. I think in a lot of cases you're gonna want this module more than the Delta module, which is pretty funny, but I still think it's still not gonna be enough. Like, there are much better options right now. If you want to tank a boss, like for example, Hoshigma Altar is gonna be released pretty soon. I think she's gonna be better in 99% cases. This is still very reliant on her activating her S3, and her S3 doesn't last that long, so once her S3 expires, well, she's probably gonna die, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I think people are gonna try her, but she's still not gonna be enough, unfortunately. At least in IS, I really don't see her being that useful. So there you go, guys. This was my analysis for all the units that are gonna be released in CN soon. So as a summary, I think Entelechia's second module is really good. I think Titty and her skill 2 are definitely gonna get played. I think as a E1 operator, she's much better than Monster, in my opinion, if at least the skill works as I think it will. And yeah, that's about it. So feel free to tell me what you think about all these new units in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.